welcome back to the Mage Meetup, where you listen to a wizard talk about the things he likes and hates in gaming. And today's episode was planned to be me talking about the evolution of Nintendo's gaming aisle in places like Target and Walmart over the years, but due to the latest unforeseen developments, I just could not come in here and talk about the current Nintendo prices, knowing what they'd soon turn into based on what we have today. I just could not torture you guys like that. Because in less than 12 hours from this recording, the ongoing already insane price epidemic of video games has decided to set sails on a path of no return, where we see another price increase for the base of just new games that Nintendo is deciding to spearhead with their Nintendo Switch 2 showcase earlier today. Because all things considered, the Nintendo Direct today was actually amazing. Like, when you take away all the price stuff and all that drama, this was one of the best Direct showcases that Nintendo has had in the past few years, minus the technical difficulties towards the end. I know somebody lost their job today. But man, there are some strong feelings to be shared by the average Nintendo fan after today's price reveals that I wanted to share my perspective on as someone that likes to play and talk about contemporary Nintendo things. Because the emotional roller coaster started early at 9 a.m. with the highly anticipated Nintendo Switch 2 Direct showcase, to which we finally got what we really wanted to know, and that was the Switch 2's price tag being $449 for just the standalone thing. However, it's also shared that the Nintendo Switch 2 bundled with the new Mario Kart World game, being the next entry in the highly acclaimed series, is going to be $500, which I would assume is going to be the next base price for any new bundle that they decide to pair with the Nintendo Switch 2 console. Now, putting that Mario Kart bundle aside, $449 for the base Nintendo Switch 2, that's a little more than we were expecting to pay, or at least hoping to pay in this current climate of economy, because we were hoping it would be $400. But like I said when I first talked about these price predictions, between $400 and $450 is just the max that I think Nintendo could get away with for this console. So while I wish it was lower, I'm not mad at $449. Like, this was something that I was expecting to pay regardless. But again, this Nintendo Switch 2 console price tag, I feel like that was just the diversion of the entire price conversation. Like, that was just a shadow clone jutsu to hide the actual attack that we face today, and that was revealed that Mario Kart World, the new Mario Kart game, would be $80 at its MSRP. And then they had the nerve to put asterisks on that on the website, like retailers were going to charge anything less than that for the first year of the Nintendo Switch 2 launch. An $80 Mario Kart game. This is the biggest caveat of today's reveals that just leaves a really weird taste in the average Nintendo fans' mouths, as while price hikes are something that we were expecting, especially for physical editions, where they announced that they're going to be having new cartridges that are faster in loading. So with all the imports having taxes now, we knew that at least physical games were going to get a big price increase. But Nintendo, while they obviously are moving with the new import economy, they're also pushing the just game industry market forward, as they're charging $70 for the new Donkey Kong game and $80 for Mario Kart, which shows that they're trying to charge more for their flagship titles that they believe deserve that new price tag, that I have just no doubt is going to encourage other big name studios, including maybe even Grand Theft Auto 6 later this year, to charge as much as they can with this new pricing. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself now. Listen, Mario Kart World is apparently at an MSRP of $80. Now, Nintendo, they haven't specifically said if that's the digital or the physical version of the game, but based on the Spanish website that people have seen today, it seems that the agenda is to charge more for the physical version of this game and all other Nintendo games going forward, because they have Mario Kart World listed for €80 digitally and €90 for the physical edition, and also the same respective price increase, except obviously €10 less for the new Donkey Kong game. And listen, when it comes to the whole conversation of video game prices, I've always been a realist in my videos, talking about the reality of just how much it takes in profit for these games to make back based on the development, costs nowadays. Because you just gotta consider that when console gaming became mainstream in the 80s, the base price for a single game, counting inflation nowadays, was over $100 per game. And then soon after, obviously those prices went down dramatically so they were affordable per pop. But through multiple generations going forward, they started getting increased like $10 increments. The latest increase happening in around 2020 or 2021 with, I believe, NBA 2K21, so it had to be 2020. We went from $60 games to $70 games that we were hoping this generation would just be $70 games going forward. But obviously Nintendo, they see franchises, some of the biggest franchises like Mario Kart, being worthy of that $80 price tag. Digitally or physically, we don't exactly know yet. So anyone that knows the history of video game prices or just sees how the economy is starting to shift with inflation and every other factor, they'd be able to know that eventually games would cost $80 and $90 and even more as decades goes on. But what makes this feel just so icky is because it just feels like it's happening too soon, because like I said, we had that aforementioned $70 increase in price tag only 5 years ago when we had the $60 increase like for a decade plus. So much so that the majority sentiment I've seen online is people either saying that they've been outpriced entirely from this Nintendo generation, or they're going to heavily cherry pick games going forward and wait for these sales to get some of the games that they really want to play on the Nintendo Switch 2 console. And look, man, I am just in the complete same boat, because I went into this direct showcase with realistic expectations. Like, I was thinking this was going to be a high cost console and $70 games. But when it comes to just that $80 retail, I just can't get behind that. I can't get behind the $70 to begin with, but I was going to be able to manage that more than paying $80 for games that I probably won't enjoy out of that price tag, if you know what I mean. Like, take this new Mario Kart game for example. It looks amazing and definitely an evolutionary step in the whole new era of open world Mario Kart games with the free roam mode and all the, new features with the camera and shit. But at the end of the day, not to knock all the talented people that worked on this game and probably made an experience that you haven't seen from Nintendo before, but at the same time, from what I've seen of the trailer, this isn't a game that I haven't experienced in some other way, shape, or form before for a way cheaper price. Like, yeah, you have the open world, you have obvious Mario Kart formula that you have in Mario Kart 8 right now with all the new updates and DLCs that give that a complete experience. But for a person like me, I don't even own Mario Kart 8 on my Nintendo Switch. Mario Kart has never been my Nintendo game or even my Mario game. Like, I've always been more of a 3D Mario type player. So that game specifically, I don't see the value of paying $80 for that. Like, $80 for me is a month's worth of grocery for my body, which you can tell because I'm skinny as shit. Maybe $80 is good for the next Zelda title, or like I said, the new 3D Mario that I would want to play on this new system. But for a lot of people, including myself, the arcade racing formula of Mario Kart that I have no doubt is going to be really good on this new game, it just isn't there for me. So I have no choice but to wait for a game like Mario Kart World to go on sale if I do end up getting the Switch 2. And then obviously, it's not just the games or even the hardware itself that's facing the bulk of new substantial pricing, because we also have the new Switch 2 Pro controller that's retailing for $80 now, and all it has is every feature of the original Switch Pro controller, just now with the C button and new back pedals that you got with all the freaking Power A controllers for years now. But now Nintendo's taking a page from their quote-unquote fake controllers book. The Joy-Cons are $90 a pop, something that I called out in one of my recent videos talking about game controllers. Overall, while we did expect this console to be more expensive, I think where it just hits the most hard is the games, because we know that it just won't stop at Nintendo. We have other big games that will likely follow suit if Nintendo decides to attach this MSRP with all of their big games going forward, because Nintendo right now is the standard. They are the only console left that has actual exclusives, well, for the most part at least, and a diehard fan base that will no doubt give this console some success with how many people buy it on day one. But again, this whole situation it's undoubtedly going to create a domino effect that's going to outprice a lot of people with modern gaming. And then they even had the nerve to charge for that new Nintendo Switch 2 showcase game that they showed off today. Apparently it's going to be less than $10 or something, but the fact that they're charging for that at all when you have things like the PlayStation 5 that comes bundled with Astro's Playroom, which is a whole hardware showcase and a whole game for free, it's like, come on, man. Like, why are you guys doing that to me now? Why you gotta do that on top of everything else? But again, I said all of that to say that I still do want a Nintendo Switch console, and I might still just buy the console itself and then thug it out and wait for the games to eventually go on some sort of sale, because I can see many timelines going forward and there's not one where this wizard pays $80 for Mario Kart World, at least not one. Of course, there is the option to save $30 on the Mario Kart World price tag and buy the Nintendo Switch bundle, but I don't like having digital games. I like having the cartridge. I like having the physical games, even if it's just the cases for, like, you know, PlayStation or Xbox games, because I like collecting the boxes and having that on hand at all times. But a good point that I did see pointed out today is the fact that Nintendo and pretty much every other gaming publisher is trying to phase out physical games for the majority, because for one, you can't fit any of the games on the disc anymore. Most of them are just downloads, or not even disc anymore. They're just download codes for you to download over the internet. And then, like I said, the cartridges are expensive to make, and they have a whole new cartridge that they're making that's likely going to be even more of a price increase, since it is an import, you know, to the United States with all the tariff shit going on. So either way, the physical games, they're either going to be expensive or obsolete in the near future. But if you're in the same boat as me and you're just waiting for the overall prices to hopefully come down at some point, then I just think you're on the smartest path possible, unless money just isn't a hindrance for you. But at the same time, I wouldn't even blame you for just outright skipping this Nintendo generation, because it's hard to be enticed about the pricing of these new consoles when you just have the option of not even paying this and paying less for a Steam Deck, and then just emulating all the Nintendo Switch 2 games that'll eventually come out. But I'm not saying that I do that on camera.